All right, and welcome to Gilbert. It's all about the media podcast. Josh isn't here right now, but he'll probably show up later on today. But he chose real life horror, so hopefully he'll get here today so he can talk about the movie he picked for this subgenre. I guess how we're gonna do this: talk about movies that kind of have a real life experience or sort of real, and then we'll talk about pretty much the stories of the inspirations behind all of this. But I'll go first. The movie I picked is kind of an obvious one. It's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. For those that don't know, like the full story of, well, I mean, pretty much if you know, then you know. Okay, but if people for some reason don't know, there's always been a misconception, like in the early 2000s, that the events of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre actually happened, but then people actually get into the story, and the events of the movie did aren't real because there's a difference between based on a true story and inspired by a true story. Based is just pretty much like it's the story within itself, but we are changing a couple of things here and there just for entertainment purposes. Inspired by a true story means that something inspired them to create that movie. So the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original 1974, to be specific, was inspired by the events of a famous serial killer named Ed Gein. And Ed Gein, though there is like, so let me put this straight. People more call Ed Gein a murderer than a serial killer, if you get what I mean. Because to be considered a serial killer, you have to kill at least three or more people to actually be called a serial killer. Ed Gein only confessed to murdering two women, but there were bodies found at his place, people who were presumed missing. So they automatically assume he must have killed him as well. But Leatherface is not the only famous like fantasy serial killer to, or just famous character in horror to be inspired by Ed Gein. Give me a second. There were two other famous characters in the horror genre that were inspired by Ed Gein. The first one being Norman Bates from the Psycho movies, and the other one being Buffalo Bill and The Silence of the Lambs. How they all connected is pretty much kind of similar. So Leatherface is obviously the most famous one because he wore like the faces of his victims. And if you've ever seen the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there is a there's a their house is made out of furniture from like bones and skin of their victims, and that was Ed Gein. So 'cause he had furniture that was made out of human skin. Some were from his victims, while the others were from um, other deceased people. Because not only was he a killer, but he was also a grave robber, and he would dug up the bodies of people who've only been dead for a couple of days, and he would skin up the bodies and then just make like furnitures and stuff out of them. And how the other two, Norman Bates and Buffalo Bill, fit into it is that Norman Bates had created, his mother in his own likeness, and he would wear the clothes of his mother to bring his mother back to life. That's what Ed Gein did, but a little bit more extreme, which leads to the Buffalo Bill story. For those that don't know, Buffalo Bill was the main killer in Silence of the Lamb. I know people are automatically jumping to, wait, I thought Hannibal Lecter was the main killer in Silence of the Lamb. Well, I know to those who haven't seen the movie, yes, Hannibal Lecter is the villain in The Silence of the Lamb, but he's not like the main villain of the movie. The main villain was Buffalo Bill, who the FBI were hunting. And Buffalo Bill, in his story arc, wanted to be a woman, so he decided to create a bodysuit of a woman's flesh for him to actually become a woman. So this is where like you see where it's all connected now. But the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is pretty much more infamous for that. It's more infamous with the story of Ed Gein. And if you haven't seen the movie, the original 1974, I don't know why, because it's a classic. But the brief synopsis is just a bunch of people who are driving across Texas because of there were two siblings there, Sally Hardenstein and her brother, who heard like there's some grave robbing happening in one of their family's plots, and a house that's not too far from their rental home had is the home of Leatherface and his family, and they all get butchered one by one. Now, the chainsaw is hardly ever used in this movie, because I think, if I can remember, Leatherface actually only kills one person with a chainsaw in the movie, and that's the brother. And give me a second, folks. All right, so we're taking a pause here. My friend Josh just emailed me. He's not feeling under weather, but in honor of Josh tonight, Josh will still do the podcast, but this is for you, man. Get well soon, buddy. To proceed, yeah, Leatherface only kills one person in the entire movie with the chainsaw. Everybody else is either killed by a sledgehammer or, I think the girl bled out on a hook. I honestly cannot tell because for one moment she's alive and then the next she's dead, but they don't show you how she dies. The dinner scene in that movie is most famous because, like, man, the shots in that movie are oh man. But yeah, no, like you get like shot super close up shots, and I heard like the room that they were shooting in was like 120 degrees in there. Like it was hot. Like, give me a second. I felt bad for the kid that was playing the grandpa in the movie, having to be in all that makeup, and Gunnar Hansen, who was the first person to ever play Leatherface, having to wear, that mask and then that suit. But I mean it, and then obviously how it ends is like Sally gets away from the Sawyer family. That's the family name. They're called the Sawyers. Yeah, when she leaves, she just laughs hysterically because like she knows she gets away. But other people who've seen that scene know that um, not only did she get away, but she's scarred for life. Like she can never recover from that. And you know what the funny thing is? Um, the so Sally gets saved by a truck driver, right? And he's only in there for like literally a minute of screen time for that one scene. And he had no lines nor anything. But the actor does who played the truck driver does who plays the truck driver, he does do conventions. And people know him famously. The funny thing is the truck driver is the actor who played the truck driver, his name is Ed Gein. So that's kind of funny. But yeah, that's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like from real life event, from based off the events of the story of Ed Gein. But opening to the floor, Jesus, were you familiar with the story in both cases? I guess I would say.
Yeah, I was familiar with the Ed Gein story for sure. I did not know about the truck driver part though. That's wild. Ed Gein. Like I'm sure it's not. Is it the exact same name spelled out? I mean, but
Yeah, it's spelled the same way.
that is wild.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, and obviously, like this movie had a whole bunch of sequels in the franchise that don't really obviously they don't hold up to the first film. But I would say like they've been before the or after the third movie, they've been gunning to have Gunnar Hansen come back as a Leatherface. But there was just like a lot of disputes between Gunnar Hansen and some of the studio execs, and then also like sometimes he just couldn't make it because he had other stuff to do. We almost had Gunnar Hansen come back again in 2013, I believe, when they rebooted the series. But he came out in the movie called Texas Chainsaw. And by the way, these movies they don't know how to like think of a different name because it's either Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because the original 1974 version, chainsaw is two different words, and the 2003 film is one word, chainsaw. And then recently was just called Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I saw and um, got a lot of thoughts on that. Um, there's a lot of carnage candy. Story wise, it's not there. Well, I mean, none of these really had stories. To make things funnier, Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger were in one of those movies. It's called The Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation, or The Return of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Don't even bother, man. That movie was terrible. Like, cause okay, so if y'all know Leatherface, y'all know he has a bunch of different masks, especially in the first movie. He has the butcher mask, which you see often in throughout the film. But you see two other masks that are very feminine. There's the old lady mask, which I believe, which me and a bunch of other fans of the movie believe it's supposed to represent like a surrogate mother type figure, because this is a house of three boys and Leatherface is the youngest in the movie. And then there's the pretty woman mask, which there could be so many different things. Maybe it could be like there's a different side to Leatherface that we don't know about. Um, there's maybe he just wants to have a good looking person's face during the dinner scene, or maybe like a surrogate sister. There's so many interpretations with that, but they took that too far in the Matthew McConaughey version, because he's a full like screaming transvestite. Like, he's not threatening in the movie. He's just wearing a gown and just screaming a lot. Like, he's not the tough guy as he once was. And I'm not saying this as like anti-trans or anything like that. What I mean is like, it's not Leatherface. It's just somebody trying to be Leatherface, and that's how you put it. But yeah, no, that was a horrible film. It's definitely like bottom of the barrel. Um, I think trying to think, Kane Hodder. He wasn't Leatherface, but I think he did a stunt for the third movie. So technically, if you think about it, Kane Hodder, who if y'all don't know, is infamous for playing Jason in 4 Friday the 13th movies. Are they good? No, because like really none of those Friday the 13th movies are like good per se.
I
But
thought Seven was pretty good.
which one?
Seven, The New Blood.
Yeah. That's for those that don't know, that's the one where it's like, I guess they like to call it dollar store Carrie, because there's a girl that has telekinesis powers, and that's also Kane Hodder's debut as Jason. But yeah, for I think a stunt, Kane Hodder did do a Leatherface, but he's actually really good friends with R.A. Mihaloff, who did Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. Supposedly they used to do ghost hunting together. And how I found that out was I used to watch Ghost Avengers a lot, like in the mid 2000s, 2010s actually, and actually no, early 2010s. And yeah, it was him, RA, and a different stunt guy. And another funny thing is Tom Morga. He's an actor who played who he so he didn't play Jason. He played Roy, which in I know I'm going off topic a bit, but just bear with me. He played Roy in Friday the 13th Part 5, I believe, A New Beginning, which is the copycat Jason. But he did play Jason in the hallucinations of the main character Tommy Jarvis. But Tom Morga also did a stunt in the beginning of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, doing Leatherface, which I don't know why, where Bill Johnson, the actor for who played Leatherface in that film, not to get him confused with Pastor Bill Johnson of Bethel Church. It's a whole yeah, it's a whole different Bill Johnson, y'all. Um, but I don't know what was happening with Bill Johnson for that shot of the movie, because I don't know. I mean, because okay, most of these actors who've played like the famous killers, like Michael, Jason, Leatherface, they're all stunt people. So I don't know, like if some just back out of stunts or something like that. But to my point, Tom Morga did the stunt as and fill in for Bill Johnson, and also Tom Morga, when they were trying to find a Michael Myers for Part 4 before George P. Wilbur stepped in. Tom Morga played Michael Myers in the beginning of the movie, from the ambulance scene to the gas station scene. So Tom Morga is the only actor to ever play Jason, quote unquote Jason, Leatherface, and Michael. Anytime you ever go see a panel of him on YouTube, they'll always quote him as Jason. But I know I talked a little bit, way too much more, but Um, the other thing I want to mention though is that there is going to be an Ed Gein show happening, I think next year, or if not, early 2026. Charlie Hunnam, famous known for playing Jax on Sons of Anarchy, is set to play Ed Gein. I'm pretty curious about that. Oh, final thing, and this is gonna blow your mind. Kane Hodder actually played Ed Gein in a television movie. Um, but this went a lot more than the story, as I would say. But it was a pretty interesting movie. But I do wish I would have met Gunnar Hansen and Marilyn Burns from the original two. Like that's one of the reasons why I wasn't a huge fan of the recent movie. Because that scene was Sally Hardenstein and Leatherface. That wasn't Gunnar Hansen and Marilyn Burns. I mean, that's what you probably thought too, Sis, right?
Yeah, like right off the bat, I was like, I mean, I understand what they're going for. Like we just had this talk a couple minutes ago, but studios wanna bank in on that. So once they see a film that did so good, like Halloween, like a legacy sequel did so well, they want to copy that, and obviously they didn't get the right people to do it. So I mean, it's just a mixed bag.
Yeah. I know. Actually, I saw the guy who played Leatherface, Mark Burnham, I think that's what his name was, at the Texas Frightmare the same year the movie came out. And the thing was, like most horror slasher fans, and I really mean like most of them, they don't care about reviews or if performances are good. All they just want to see is the carnage. That's pretty much it. So,
Yeah.
so with that scene in the van, I mean, that's pretty much all people just wanted to see. Yes, I mean, I think people. First of all, people should stop with the legacy sequel routes because a no one knows what to do with the legacy characters. I mean, if y'all seen The Exorcist Believer, I mean, what was it? Chris McNeil shows up, gets her eye stabbed, stays in the hospital for like another minute, and then that's pretty much it. So just a little side note before we go on break a bit. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this movie. Um, Hopefully some of y'all have, but I showed, or not really showed. I convinced Jesus to watch a movie called Sleepaway Camp last week. And if you haven't seen Sleepaway Camp, I'm not gonna go full into detail on that. Um, but I recommend some people watching it. But there's always been debate, or not debate, but like people been wanting to know if they continue the movie, how should it be? Because they kind of already did a legacy sequel. Sorry, they kind of already did a legacy sequel back in like 2006, before the term legacy sequel was an actual thing. But it didn't go so well, and they've had sequels, and there was sequels to that movie, but I've seen the sequels first, so to the big surprise in the first film, kind of got spoiled for me, but I also forgot about it, and they don't really mention it again. But if you guys are wondering what's the price, watch it because it's there. Like emphasis,
My only
yeah,
so not to interrupt, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but like my takeaway for anybody who plans to watch this, sit through it. I mean, sometimes, I mean, yeah, it's a product of its time. Obviously, it's based on the budget and whoever they had at the time and such. So sometimes it may drag a little bit, but if you take your time, that I like what Gilbert said, it pays off. It
yeah,
does pay off.
yeah, yeah. It's there. Emphasis on the it part. But what I was gonna say is that like people were wondering like would they go legacy sequel again? For me personally, as like someone who does like some slasher films and horror, and someone who's like likes filmmaking, my approach, and this isn't gonna sit well for anybody, especially fans of this movie. My approach would be a sequel, but not a legacy sequel, nor a sequel to the other movies. It would be taking place like I would say a year or two later, and I would for me personally, I would try to find actors that kind of resemble like the younger Ricky and Angela, the two main characters of the first movie. Um, that's where I would go with. And I know that could be a ballsy move. Would it work? We don't. We wouldn't. I wouldn't know. I mean, I won't know because I know. Right now, I told Sis this. Um, nobody really, as I think, nobody really owns the movie. Um, because the director after the first movie sold the rights to whatever studio was going to publish the next two. He didn't like how that studio handled it, so he bought it back. And he must have let it go because he never said whether or not he owns it or not. And I would assume he would have because the dude's a lawyer now. Like he doesn't make movies anymore. But I know I'm getting off topic. But I will say though, like in relation, technically the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is kind of like the full start of slasher. Some will say Halloween, and then some will say Black Christmas. Texas Chainsaw Massacre kind of started at it really same year Black Christmas did because it had like the big bulky um 6'5" killer who doesn't speak, and then there's the final girl. And if anybody wants to know, yes, I've seen all the movies. I can't really rank them, but have you seen all of the movies, Jesus?
I can't say that I haven't. I mean, I can. That's what I mean. I haven't seen all of them. I think I've only seen up to the third film. Well, first, second, a little bit of three. So I didn't really finish three, and then the reboot.
All right.
But like the reboot now, not the reboot that happened like 5 years ago.
Um, um,
The Michael Bay.
yeah, the Michael Bay one. Yeah, those are actually pretty interesting. A little funny thing is that well, not funny thing. What's his name? The actor who played Leatherface. I'm trying to remember. Andrew Burnetsky. I think that's how you say his name. Him and Gunnar Hansen had a beef like the final year of Gunnar Hansen's life. It was shocking because like it looked like they were on good terms while everything was happening. But I think that was just like Gunnar Hansen just fooling around. I think, in my personal opinion, I think Andrew like took it too personal, and then because the day Gunnar Hansen died, what Andrew Bernetsky put on his Facebook was just boo hoo, and then the comment section was just filled up after that. But he said, "Well, I mean, he had to reiterate, look, I'm not like making fun of his death or anything. I mean, I'm just the type of person that doesn't like trash talk or whatever." And he says like we could also talk. Let's also talk about the elephant in the room. Cancer sucks, which he didn't know Gunnar Hansen had, but that's pretty much what he was saying afterwards. That's pretty much all I gotta say. I mean, I would have loved again. I would have loved to meet Gunnar Hansen. Um, I met so if I was going to talk about who I met in the slasher genre, so far just Robert Englund and Nick Castle and James Jude Courtney. I haven't met any Jasons yet. I almost came close to meeting Steve Dash, who played Jason in the second movie. For those that don't know, that's the one where Jason has the sack head. This was before the hockey mask iteration. It's funny because he would every time he signed his autograph, he said the real Jason because he was like technically the first slasher Jason, not the first Jason. The first Jason went to the actor who played the little boy Jason in the first movie, but
Right.
yeah, the real Jason, he like the first like killer Jason. Wow, that's that. I don't even know how I just ended up through all of that, but anyway, we're gonna take a break right now, and Jesus has one interesting movie that I actually never heard of until a couple of nights ago. So we'll catch you in a little bit. Recording in progress. Oh, now I know what it is. Okay, here it is. All right. All right, guys, welcome back. First of all, Josh, get well soon, buddy. Hopefully, you get well pretty soon. All right. As soon as I guess you could talk about your next film for today.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, or just before we start, yeah, man. Josh, hope you prayers are with you, man. Hopefully, you can recover as best you can, and up to your studies and stuff like that. So, all right. Let's see. So, I guess since Josh had to introduce it as real life horror, I guess I decided to actually go as far as to it's labeled as real life, like real footage, but I mean people have debated it, and the authenticity has been debated constantly throughout the years. And of course, we've discovered that only pieces of it were just scripted events. Anyway, the film that I'm talking about, some people probably have never heard of it, but other people that have, probably on the underground circuits, and by that I mean like the dark web or other places that people grew up with in the 70s when film was just allowed to do its own thing no matter what. And the only rules were just if it goes any higher than R, it's X. And at that point, you have to switch it up. So, yeah. Anyway, the 70s were a crazy time. This film I'm talking about is called Faces of Death. And basically, it kind of serves like it kind of plays out as a documentary of some sorts or a mockumentary, because there's a guy who narrates throughout the whole film, and all he's doing is just explaining. Like he introduces himself as a, what is it called, as a doctor, and so he tries to explain, oh yeah, like, well, what's the concept of death. And the whole point of this is he's trying to show us the various forms that any living thing can just die in. Well, that could be from getting mauled, from getting cannibalized, to just getting electrocuted in the electric chair. So this film basically shows you clips throughout everything to show you those stages. Hence the name Faces of Death, the various forms of death. So there's a couple of scenes that really speak out to viewers. I mean, one when I first watched it, it really it really caught my attention and scared me, because it's like, okay, that's like the way that it's presented is just wild. But yeah, there's a scene where they're explaining how, at the time when a lot of states still had the death penalty, and it was rampant, and serial killers were rampant. There's a scene showing us how a person that is being served as execution for the electric chair, you see it unfold. And I believe that's one of the actual tapes, or that they quote unquote recordings, that they are actually scripted, because it just looks too real, if that makes any sense. But anyway, the point is, you could see just like this person dying right in front of you, and it's just he's being electrocuted. So they explain it, and it's just kind of wild. But anyway, they always cut back, and they always explain things like, oh, here's what happens to a fetus. I mean, again, I'm not trying to bring up any politics here or anything, whether you're pro-life or pro-choice. But the thing is that they explain it as a fetus, and they'll say, okay, this is what happens in an abortion. They don't show you the actual abortion. They'll just say, here's like jars. If anybody's been in college, and if they've been in science classes, they've probably seen that. They've probably seen fetuses in a jar, right? So I mean, it is disgusting. It is what they're trying to entail, but that's the point. Trying to show people, and it's kind of weird. Like the narrator keeps explaining and showing tapes and showing videos of what's going on, and in all this mist of death. I mean, he just wants to emphasize to people, you got a life, live the best way you can, because you never know when it's your last day. But also, for anybody who was at the time, he even brings up a point. If you're suicidal and you're watching this kind of film, please, like, you should probably have left by now. But it's also the fact that they're trying to emphasize life is beautiful. So the whole point is live life to the fullest. Do as much as you can within reason, and love people around you, because you just never know when they're gone. I guess I'll end it with one last thing. There is one tape, and I think that tape is considered to be actual real death. And this is happening like, I'm assuming Africa, because it looked like a safari trip, or photographers were taking photos of like lions, and this one unfortunate person appears to be mauled to death. Of course, you're not seeing the actual presentation. You don't see his face get mauled up or anything. It's the video is coming from the perspective of somebody else in a different safari truck or cat or car, and that person is seeing everything unfolding, because apparently he dropped it. The person who's getting mauled to death dropped his camera on accident and went to retrieve it. And these lions are just resting. They're just doing their thing. They're not doing anything. And of course, he got too close, and that's when I guess the believe it or not, if anybody knows, the female lions are the ones that actually do most of the work. It's usually the male lion that just sits there. So when anybody who's grown up watching The Lion King, just realize Nala would be doing most of the work, not Simba. So if they actually went with the real the like how real lions like the behavioral patterns work. Anyway, yeah, the point is, I think that's one of the only real tapes of death that they put in this film. Don't know how they did it, but it still went through the MPA rating. So I believe this film was actually unrated. It was supposed to be rated X, and I think for that reason alone, they just released it as unrated, and it only that's why it only circulated in like small places throughout the world. A lot of countries banned it, so it was for what it's worth. Yeah, I mean it's a small minuscule thing, and it's considered to be like I guess it opened up its own subgenre in horror. I don't know if you guys ever heard of this YouTuber named Windigoon, and he talks about all these like he likes to do icebergs, or he did icebergs for a while. And he talked to, and this is how I discovered what Phases of Death was. So he talked about it all through an iceberg about the most haunted, I mean not haunted, the most disturbing and banned release horror films. And so Phases of Death was just at the tip of the iceberg. So like, believe it or not, there is it's just sad and disturbing how deep the rabbit hole goes or the iceberg goes. So like if Raise the Death, even if I'm explaining it, it's gruesome. It sounds gruesome. It sounds disturbing. I've only watched it one time, but sometimes something like that can leave a lasting impression on a person. So anyway, yeah, I mean that's my contribution to real life horror for you.
Was is it like on the same level of like found footage style like Cannibal Holocaust?
I would say yes. I mean, it's like recordings. Like if you ever seen the world's wildest police videos, like when Spike TV had its own thing, and they would show like recordings of things that are happening in real time. It's kind of like that. So some of the footage that you're seeing the dates are removed, so like people just can't figure out, oh, it was like this death happened on this day or whatever. And then sometimes they're just zoomed in. So like they're trying to hide what's actually real and what's scripted, or what was already planned on sound stages. But it's kind of like that, yeah.
Yeah, movies like what you're talking about, it's always on the MPAA's radar. And like as you mentioned with your movie, and then I mentioned recently Cannibal Holocaust, and then last week briefly talked about not briefly talked about I mentioned a Serbian film. Those are like literally like movies that are just so disturbing they're banned from countries. People literally feel depressed just watching. What else is another movie? I think it's called Salo. I think Salo 180 Days of Something. I don't remember.
Yeah, it's 180 Days of Sodom, and I cannot believe you brought that up.
Yeah, that I don't really want to talk about what the movie is entirely about, but I will tell you, it just leaves you depressed. But yeah, like movies like those are always on the MPA's radar. And again, you got the X ratings and then you got the not ratings. Of course, things kind of change throughout the years because, like, as we were mentioning with like some of the slasher films in the last segment, like when we were talking about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, third movie got attacked by the MPAA. There was so much stuff they had to censor, and then same thing with most of the Friday the 13th movies. The MPA kept like getting into them so much. Looked like you were gonna say something.
Yeah, I was gonna add on to your thing since I guess we're already we've been talking so much about Friday the 13th. So like you know how you mentioned yourself, that's right. MPA was just like the biggest obstacle for every single film in that franchise. Believe it or not, and fans who are diehard fans know this already. But like especially the ones who collected the box set that came out like a couple years back, and it had all the films up to that point in Blu-ray and stuff. Apparently, the studio Shout Factory was able to uncover a VHS tape from one of the people who worked on the second film, and that VHS tape it actually includes, I think, again, I'm probably wrong here, but I think it includes all of the scenes and the death scenes in its uncensored form. And for some reason, a lot of the footage back then was just removed. It was just deleted. It was lost to time. But this guy apparently, like who worked in the production for the second film, apparently kept a VHS tape that included all the uncensored deaths in the second film, and that's wild because that's what fans like that want to see. They want to see, like you said, fans of horror just want to see the the deaths.
Yeah.
So for people to like realize that that actually like somehow survived when every other uncensored death scene considered lost media to this point is just mind-boggling.
Yeah. I forgot what I was gonna say. I guess you could say like yeah, the MPA like they're always like on there. But if you ever watch like certain movies then compared to most movies now, um, let's put it this way. Let's just talk Psycho for a second. Psycho 1960 in MPA's rules is R-rated, but if it was made now, it would probably be close to a PG-13 rating. I think the remake was also rated R. By the way, yeah, there is a remake of the movie. Literally nothing new. And what I mean nothing new, I mean like everything was shot the same way as the original 1960 movie was shot, frame per frame, shot per shot, line per line. The only difference is it was all shot in color, unlike the original 1960. It was obviously made in black and white.
Gonna add on to your thing, like it's the definition, it's the literal definition of a remake. You can open up a textbook and there it will tell you Psycho from like 2000 and something is literally a remake.
Like keeping up with like so going back on track with the term real life horror or like as I've mentioned earlier when we start on the podcast, there's always a difference between based and inspired by a true story. I mean like when we all watched like the first Conjuring, I mean people we were all wondering like how, was did this all really happen? And then when we look into the actual story, now, obviously, not everything happened. Like, I mean, obviously, when you watch the movie, you can probably know like the ending of the movie, the exorcism, was probably the one thing that we can tell was probably scripted, which we were right about. But then when we hear about the whole story of like the actual family, I think they're called the Perry family, if I'm not mistaken. They kicked out the Warrens because they didn't like how they were running things, and then they didn't move out when the Warrens left. They stayed in that house because they had nowhere else to go. There was a woman named Bathsheba who owned that house before, but she wasn't a witch or a Satan worshiper. She was just an old woman that lived there. So you can see like where like real life horror, like is it real or how much is there with fiction? As you mentioned with your film, where like the deaths are really scripted, or there's the other deaths that we can tell aren't scripted or supposedly aren't scripted. Um, the thing is that these are like what's scary about most of these movies is that like stuff like that actually happened, as I mentioned with like Ed Gein. I mean, if I tell you the whole story of Ed Gein, you would think this is all just some messed up horror picture. That's pretty much I'm pretty much quoting from X if you guys haven't seen that movie. But no, like what Ed Gein did, he did do that. He made a woman flesh to quote unquote bring back his mother or try to like make himself his mother and bringing his mother back. And it wasn't just like the full body of a woman. I think it was like pieces of people, the full body suit. We never gave you guys a disclaimer before this podcast started, like as in you're gonna probably gonna be sick to your stomach. But that's how it is. I mean, what else? I'm trying to think. Would Zodiac be a horror film? The David Fincher film? Because it literally is about the Zodiac killer.
I guess, yeah, I think so.
Yeah. If you guys haven't seen Zodiac, yo, this is literally Mark Ruffalo and Robert Downey Jr. like before Marvel. And bro, if you haven't seen it, it's very intense. Especially like when you know like the actual story of the Zodiac killer. I'm trying to think what else is there that could be called real life horror other than The Conjuring. I mean, even if you consider The Conjuring real life horror,
I mean, if you count the Amityville horror.
the Amityville horror or the Hunting in Connecticut, I believe as well.
Mm.
Those were also Warren, the Warren cases. Not true, but Annabelle. Don't want to cross that. And like I said, it's kind of creepy how like some of the stuff happened, some of the stuff could happen. Like again, Ed Gein, that's kind of messed up there. And then you also know like what really inspired these people and these things. As I mentioned, like Ed Gein started like he's what inspired Psycho in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Silence of the Lamb. That's yeah, I think that's much true. Actually, hold on. I found out something interesting. I just remember this too. I don't know if you guys have ever remembered The Hills Have Eyes, but Wes Craven, who directed the original, said there was a story in Scotland that literally that inspired him to do The Hills Have Eyes about like a Scottish person that lived in the mountains that would literally like prey on the visitors of whoever was in there. Yeah, I think that's what he said. Yeah, so supposedly The Hills Have Eyes kind of was inspired by a true story, and I think I'm more censoring the story a bit. Like most YouTubers will actually like give the full detail of how gruesome like some of these stories were. I think that's all we can have today. Again, like we all wish Josh was here, but he wasn't feeling well, and we wish him a speedy recovery. But that's it for the little series we have on like subgenres. I do want to try this again eventually because there's more I do want to talk about in the future. We don't really have to wait till Halloween next year. We could literally do it like any time in the year. You know what I mean? Because like what I kind of want to do, either like the end of the year or the start of the year when I go on quote unquote mid season break. Well, pretty much every episode was a mid season break. But I do want to talk about like some of the horror films that I've seen this year that I kind of like. Like recently, guys, I saw all three Terrifier films for the first time, and I'm never gonna sleep again. Especially because like I saw the Terrifier Halloween night, which is yesterday of this recording. But like one week I saw the first Terrifier, and the second week I saw the second Terrifier, and now I saw the third one. And man, you guys are some sick freaks for liking these movies. I mean, they're gruesome as heck, bro.
I mean, we started somewhere. We started baby steps with Saul.
Oh yeah, Saw. I mean, yeah, but who else kind of started that? I think Eli Ross kind of started that with the Hostel films. But trust me, I don't think that any of them are gonna like match what the movie you were talking about. Are they as gory as the Terrifier movie, like in the death scene of the Faces of Death, or?
I mean, like the ones that are scripted
Mm-hmm,
are not as gory as
mm-hmm,
like any of the Terrifier films. But then
uh,
obviously when you can't compare, even a director of Terrifier could even tell you straight. I mean, he'll probably agree with that statement. Real life death won't match anything to what they do in film.
I know when I saw. I mean, as we mentioned, a bunch of people, horror fans, don't really care about story. They care about Carnage Candy, and man, you have to be super unfazed to watch all of that because it's like when I watch those movies, I'm just yelling at the Art the Clown, brother, he's dead or she's dead. I don't think you need to keep stabbing them or cutting them even further. But yeah, that's all I have for tonight. But like I said, I would love to continue doing this later on in the future. And like I said, we don't have to wait till Halloween again. We could just like think of another time to do this one. Like I told us, just maybe in the future we could talk about gothic horror or like horror movies that were based off of some of the gothic books that we read in high school, like Frankenstein, which is literally my favorite story of all time. I love that story. um Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I do want to talk about that one in the future too. Oh, you're gonna say something?
You know, I was about to tell you about that one.
Yeah. Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, Dracula. I mean, Nosferatu's coming out pretty soon. Yeah, we could talk about that one in the future. That sounds like an interesting topic because believe it or not, I mean that's what inspired pretty much horror if you think about it. Like go watch and I really mean this, go watch the original 1920s and 1930s horror films. They're
Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
oh my gosh. Or go watch another movie that came out a year or two ago. It's pretty short. It's called Insane, I think, and it's directed by a guy named Gilbert Garcia. Was Jesus Vasquez in there? Yes. I'm advertising my own short film I did. I guess I'll end it off from here. So I had to direct direct a movie for directing class. I think my second year, plus ending up the second year at Sam, and my original idea, I couldn't do it for a lot of reasons. So I narrowed it down to making it as a silent film, and it worked pretty well. I mean, my directing teacher, Sachin Muraganda, he like encouraged me to try it out too. It's like I asked him, I was like, "Hey, you think I could try to do like a silent horror film?" And he's like, "Yes, my friend, you could." Okay, no, I'm not doing the accent. I'm just glad he didn't stutter when he talked. Hopefully, people got that joke. But no, he encouraged me to try it out, and yeah, he liked how it paid off. I liked how it paid off. But if you ever want to check it out, go just type down "Insane." I the silent short film. I think that's what you could type it down as. But yeah, I mean, go watch those, and then you could even watch the original Frankenstein, Dracula, Doctor Jekyll, and Mister Hyde. I mean, those were the stories that inspired horror, you know. And you could say some other stuff before that. Before then, like before we were talking, before as and I started, we were talking about Beowulf, and what else? I think Dante's Inferno would also be like an early horror, depending on how you read it.
Yes,
Yeah,
I think so.
yeah. But anyway, I don't want to keep you guys too long. But anyway, thank you guys for sticking out for this series. You guys have a good night, day, morning, whenever you're listening to this. Jesus, thank you so much. And by the way, I'll let you know when I watch Indiana Jones so we can actually do that episode for once.
Oh boy.
Yeah. All right. Y'all have a nice night, day, morning, whenever you're listening to this. We're signing out.